The politics of this war are not as black and white as I once thought they were.
I used to believe that being a good soldier meant doing everything they told you. That's how they engineered us. But we're not droids. We're not programmed. You have to learn to make your own decisions.
You've lied to me. How many other lies have I been told by the Council?
Too late for what? The Republic to fall? It already has, and you just can't see it.
You can kill me, but you will never destroy me. It takes strength to resist the dark side. Only the weak embrace it.
Execute Order 66.
In this war, a danger there is of losing who we are.
So, after hours and hours analyzing every single episode of The Clone Wars, what reasons have I found to love it so much? First of all, it's not perfect. The Clone Wars starts off much more clearly as a kids' show, with some mediocre stories and the occasional more juvenile humor that doesn't land as an adult. Most of Season 1 is arguably skippable, especially if it keeps new viewers from pushing through to the better stuff. Sometimes the show focuses on people or stories that you just might not be interested in. Sometimes it gets a little wacky and random. The Clone Wars is inconsistent in its quality, and can jar you by going from silly, lighthearted arcs right into very serious ones. You also never really know how each side of the war is doing overall, only in whatever story you're currently watching. Because it's made up of many different, often isolated arcs, sometimes out of order chronologically, the show fleshes out a world at war without an easily definable narrative. And that's not necessarily a bad thing in itself. It's just a common characteristic of most great shows. So that being a flaw depends on if you want more clarity or big picture perspective from this show. Because every season does introduce more and more impactful moments and events that do affect later episodes, it's only a hit or miss issue for me personally. So then, considering all that, what is the Clone Wars best at? Number 1. This show excels at specific world building. The Clone Wars takes the time to narrow in on new places and people, and helps you get to know them at a deeper level than you'd expect. Introducing an audience to an entire galaxy at war is a huge undertaking, but this show succeeds by showing you many different aspects of the world through the well-defined eyes of various characters. Through Padme Amidala, you learn about the opinions of the Republic Senate and the political trickery that often goes on behind the scenes. Through characters like Luminara Unduli, Pong Krell, or Quinlan Vos, you learn about the different extremes among the Jedi Order. Through Duchess Satine and other neutral groups, you learn about the worldviews of people who resist joining either side of the war. Through Mina Bonteri, you learn about the separatists who believe in their cause, and through her son Lux, you see someone torn and betrayed on every side. Through Hondo and his pirate gang, or bounty hunters like Cad Bane, you learn about the underworld and how it thrives during war. And as cast-off Sith apprentices, Asajj Ventress and Darth Maul both provide very unique perspectives on the galaxy and their place in it. By the time you've met all those characters, you can have a pretty solid picture of the galaxy during this time. George Lucas created a truly fascinating world in the era of the prequels that deserved this deeper exploration. Every different perspective is clear, important, and thought-provoking. Every planet is unique. With so much creative variety of people and stories, the world feels expansive, yet understandable. It's an impressive balance I think this show achieves. Number 2. The show is very good at character progression and development. I think Ahsoka Tano is the best example of this. She learns something in every episode she's in, and is a little more mature every time we see her. She is often a brilliant audience stand-in and a remarkably relatable character. Through her eyes, we explore the fact that things are often more complicated than you think. The process of growing up involves adopting a more complex perspective and working through disillusionment. Ahsoka learns these lessons to the point of leaving the Jedi Order. By the end of the show, we see how much Anakin's rebellious and relentless personality has influenced both who Ahsoka is as a person and how skilled she is as a fighter. We also see how much the Council betraying and expelling Ahsoka has changed her. In Season 7, Ahsoka has fully woken up to the Council's habit of playing politics instead of doing the right thing. She's gained so much perspective of the world outside the Order, and she is definitely not ready to fully trust them again. While she is certainly a catalyst in Anakin's story, Ahsoka herself has one of the most real, developed, and interesting character arcs in the whole show. I'd like to add Ventress as an honorable mention for another great character arc, and don't worry, I will get to Anakin later, but my favorite character in the Clone Wars by far is Obi-Wan Kenobi. The amount of depth and endearment he is given in Clone Wars is fantastic, and the fascinating stories focused on him are the main reason I love this show so much. I'm specifically invested in his relationships with Duchess Satine and Darth Maul. Because of those stories, Maul and Satine are also among my favorite Star Wars characters. Duchess Satine of Mandalore is introduced in Season 2, and we learn that she and Obi-Wan met and fell in love when they were younger, but neither ever acted on their feelings. The fact that Obi-Wan, who could be considered the epitome of a committed Jedi, once seriously considered leaving the Order is so significant. His personal history and remorse concerning Satine adds context to Obi-Wan's empathy toward Anakin and Padme, and partly explains his choice not to interfere in their secret relationship. The Zygeria arc of Season 4 marks the point where something clicks, and the creators of the show figure out Obi-Wan's character. We see a prime example of Obi-Wan being a witty and masterful negotiator, but more importantly, it becomes clear that Obi-Wan is the selfless Jedi who will not hesitate to put himself in danger to protect people, and he is the determined fighter who will always get back up, no matter how many times he gets knocked down. We need to understand these traits of Obi-Wan's when Darth Maul returns, because, like the Queen of Zygeria, he understands how to take advantage of them. Maul is the only person who actually causes Obi-Wan to be tempted toward the dark side. When Maul taunts him with Qui-Gon's death, Obi-Wan stops talking and starts fighting with unrestrained emotion. In the next episode, however, it's so satisfying to see Obi-Wan learn from this experience, resist those destabilizing emotions, and overcome both Maul and Savage as a true Jedi. The Lawless marks the culmination of Obi-Wan's character arc in the Clone Wars by putting him through the ultimate test. Faced with the imminent death of the woman he loves, Obi-Wan calmly and confidently denounces the dark side, and even shows empathy toward Maul. This moment represents everything that makes Obi-Wan so inspiring and lovable as a character. He demonstrates the strength in letting go of darkness and choosing the virtue of the light, even in the face of tragedy. This episode concludes one of the best storylines in Star Wars, and Satine's death is one of the few pieces of cinema that makes me want to cry every time I watch it. Number 3. In addition to character development, the Clone Wars introduces many significant themes into this era of Star Wars. First, introduced right away in Season 1, is the individual mentalities of the clones. Throughout the show, we see different clones wrestle with their purpose and identity. We explore how they feel about being one of millions of genetically identical, bred-to-be soldiers. While most clones seem to enjoy fulfilling their assigned role alongside each other, a few do choose to leave all that behind. The traitor Slick believes that the clones are expected to blindly follow orders with no promise of reward. So he decides to stand up to the Republic and do something about it. Slick sells intel to Ventress as a statement against his brothers being treated like slaves. This episode also demonstrates the trust and camaraderie between Rex and Cody, and their deep horror that one of their brothers would betray them. It establishes the deep loyalty that clones feel towards each other. In Season 2, Rex encounters Cut, a clone deserter who decided to leave the war and have a family. This episode challenges us to consider whether the clones should have a right to choose what to do with their life. By the end of the episode, you have sympathy for Cut's story, while also better understanding Rex's perspective on the war and how he values his purpose in it. Most Jedi seem to have good, trusting relationships with their captains and commanders, and affirm the clones' value as real people, not just an army of numbers. We see countless times how much Anakin and Rex, or Obi-Wan and Cody, trust and support and rely on each other, and we watch Ahsoka in particular develop deeper friendships with the clones. She always makes an intentional effort to avoid killing them when they turn on her, and we can tell she deeply feels the loss of every one of them. Pong Krell, however, shows us that some people do view the clones as inherently inferior and disposable beings. By making Krell such a dislikable antagonist, this story gives so much credence to these characters as individual personalities with real heart and agency, and more deeply develops their relationships with each other. On to the second theme. Who are the Jedi really supposed to be? The Jedi are instructed to follow a strict code of morality and detachment. Anakin Skywalker, however, frequently challenges those prevailing ideals. He recognizes that sometimes you must be willing to do whatever it takes to win. He also frequently bends the rules in order to act on his own feelings or to save people he cares about. Luminara Unduli acts as a very revealing foil to Anakin. She embodies the Jedi principle of detachment, challenging Anakin's disregard for rules, attachment to Ahsoka, and desire to control fate. Later in this arc, we also hear Ahsoka and Barriss discuss the line between being peacekeepers and warriors, and how different Anakin is from other Jedi. As I said before, we often see Ahsoka wrestling with these kinds of contradictions in what she's been taught, and there is an almost chilling moment in the Mortis arc that foreshadows the path she might follow because of her questions, and because of the example Anakin has been setting for her.
There are many contradictions in you, and in him.
In the Citadel arc, Anakin and Tarkin connect over their shared views on the Jedi, joining the Grand Army of the Republic.
I've also found that we sometimes fall short of victory because of our methods.
The Jedi are put in a challenging position by becoming part of the military, and still trying to preserve their unstained morality. In the Onderon arc, Anakin even convinces the Council to support a rebel coup that arguably toes the line of terrorism.
What you're suggesting would open up dangerous possibilities, and we must not train terrorists.
Rebels.
Later in Season 5, Tarkin again perceives the growing entanglement between the Jedi Order and the Republic government.
An attack on the Jedi is an attack on the Senate.
In episodes like these, we are encouraged to reckon with the inconsistencies between what the Jedi teach in theory and how they act in reality. Anakin might be right to challenge the status quo, but he definitely does go too far sometimes. Among all these characters who disagree with each other, who is actually setting the example of an ideal Jedi? What is the purpose of the Jedi Order outside of war? And is anyone even close to meeting the correct standards? In a similar vein, a third important theme in the Clone Wars is the flawed political decision-making of the Jedi Council. You can usually gauge this by when Obi-Wan is torn about following them. Throughout the show, Obi-Wan acts as a kind of bridge between Anakin and the Jedi Council. He walks a tricky line between enabling Anakin's rebellion and sticking to the Jedi Code, between understanding the mistakes of the Council and passively going along with them. It's one more reason his character is so complex and interesting to me. At the end of Season 5, Episode 1, Obi-Wan has discovered Darth Maul trying to recruit Hondo's pirates under his command. This is a prime example of Obi-Wan not quite being assertive enough to hold his ground against the Chancellor or the Council. Yoda agrees with Palpatine, arguing that they should ignore Maul for now and remain focused on the war. Obi-Wan's concerns are dismissed, and he is warned not to let his personal feelings affect this matter. In Season 5, Episode 16, we see that Obi-Wan was right to be concerned about Maul and his crime world ambitions. Obi-Wan knows that the Senate will not choose to intervene in a neutral conflict unrelated to the Clone War. Although Satine is in grave danger, the Jedi Council is too closely tied to the Republic and the war effort and cannot officially support Obi-Wan in helping her. When Tarkin tells the Jedi Council that they should expel Ahsoka from the Order so she can have a Republic military trial, Obi-Wan immediately tries to argue against it, but the rest of the Council overrules him, choosing compliance with the Senate and Republic rather than standing by Ahsoka. While Obi-Wan is clearly grieved by it, he is passively complicit in this decision, a decision that leads to Ahsoka leaving the Order altogether. In Season 6, the Jedi finally discover that Count Dooku is Darth Tyrannus, the person who commissioned the clone army alongside Master Sifo-Dyas. However, in order to maintain a strong, stable, and trusted image, the Jedi Council rules not to reveal this incredibly important information to anyone. Not only does this episode make much-needed clarifications and connections to Attack of the Clones, it also shows how much the Jedi have grown overly rigid and self-protective. All of these moments, more than being part of just Obi-Wan's tragic flaw, demonstrate how the Council could have allowed the fall of the entire Jedi Order, and why people like Anakin, Ahsoka, and Barriss came to distrust them so much. Their entanglement in Republic politics and their concern with public perception made even the strongest and wisest of the Jedi unable to prevent the rise of the Sith. All of those more serious and thought-provoking aspects of the Clone Wars are great, but number 4. I don't think we'd love the show so much if it wasn't also really fun to watch. There are plenty of episodes packed full of quality action, including awesome lightsaber duels, strategic battles, intense heists, and undercover missions. Sometimes it's fun to see the Jedi blast through a crowd of battle droids with ease, but sometimes it's nice to feel higher stakes when we know the Jedi can also lose. I think Cad Bane is the best example of a villain character who is both just really cool, there's simply no other way to say it, and also a competent challenger to the Jedi. And of course, there's plenty of banter that makes me want to burst out laughing every time I watch it. The main trio of Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka have so many iconic and hilarious interactions, and the battle droids do have their moments. But when it comes to peak humor in this show, for me it's the combination of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Hondo Ohnaka. Hondo is a perfect comedic side character because he's also genuinely interesting. He's predictable without being boring, and goofy while still being smart, and has some of the most memorable one-liners in Star Wars.
Insolence! We are pirates! We don't even know what that means! Open fire!
While I love Obi-Wan's serious episodes, he is also one of my favorite kinds of humorous characters, always there to drop a dry observational quip when you need it, and to roll his eyes at Anakin's shenanigans.
How did you know they wouldn't just attack us?
Because I make observations while you think with your lightsaber.
Both of these characters are hilarious alone, and my absolute favorite dynamic when they interact.
So you mean to tell me you were staging a rescue, not attempting to hijack a Jedi starship?
You're welcome! Oh, the thanklessness! What an accusation! I am gone. I will send you my bill.
Number 5. Most importantly, the Clone Wars makes the prequel movies actually work. It brings the potential of Lucas's vision to a fuller realization. It's everything those movies should have been. It will influence how you experience all three, of course, but the Clone Wars impacts the events of Revenge of the Sith most of all. Besides Obi-Wan, one of my favorite things about this show is all the ways it supports Episode 3. Without this show, I think Revenge of the Sith is entertaining, iconic, and of course endlessly memeable. But with all this added context and character development, that movie can actually be emotionally powerful. By the end of the Clone Wars, you actually feel the tragedy of Order 66, because you've seen trusted relationships develop between Jedi and the soldiers who follow them. You've spent time getting to know and love specific clones, And in Season 6, you learned that a programmed chip in their brains is actually what made the entire army turn against the Jedi. Most of all, you better understand the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker. This show creates a slow build of choices and patterns that ultimately lead to Anakin choosing the dark side and becoming Darth Vader. First, you've seen the ups and downs in Anakin and Padmé's relationship, and you believe he would do anything for her. Their most challenging trial is caused by Clovis's return in Season 6, where you see how scarily easy it is for Anakin to lose control when it comes to his wife. By Season 7, you can tell how much Anakin depends on Padmé for his emotional stability, and you know he has some control issues, so it makes sense that the threat of losing her would make him desperate to become more powerful. Second, you've seen how many times the Jedi Council has given Anakin reason to doubt their authority, the most significant times being when Obi-Wan faked his death to go undercover, and when the Council mishandled Ahsoka's trial. Not only does he recognize their mistakes, Anakin also finds frequent success and victory in the war by disobeying the Council's orders and doing things his own way. Third, you've seen how many times Chancellor Palpatine has encouraged Anakin to act on darker emotions, subtly manipulating him into distancing himself from the Jedi. You've seen how many times Anakin has come to him for advice and support instead, and has agreed with Palpatine over the Council. You believe how much he trusts and values the Chancellor's mentorship by Revenge of the Sith. Fourth, you've seen how pragmatic and radical Anakin becomes, and how many times he seems to toe the line of using the dark side. On Mortis in Season 3, Anakin is even convinced to turn to the dark side early, in order to prevent the terrible future the son shows him. You know that Anakin will save people by any means necessary, without thought for the consequences, and also how arrogant he can be, because of how truly great of a hero and general he is. Fifth, and finally, you've seen Obi-Wan and Anakin move from bickering brothers closer to loyal best friends, who truly trust and depend on each other throughout the war. You've noticed all the ways Obi-Wan really did understand Anakin's feelings, as well as all the times he could have helped Anakin by opening up and connecting with him on a deeper level, but didn't. In Season 7, you can tell Anakin has built up the emotional wall that will prevent him from confiding in Obi-Wan about Padmé's pregnancy and his nightmares, even when Obi-Wan has made his awareness of their relationship clear, and also hasn't ratted them out. You actually feel the weight of Anakin's betrayal, as well as the reality of Obi-Wan's words.
I have failed you, Anakin.
This show truly sets the emotional precedent for all of Anakin's choices in Episode 3, and the final episodes especially complete his tragic arc so well. Revenge of the Sith is so much more heartbreaking after experiencing Anakin as a more likable and understandable character in the Clone Wars. You see how his story really could have gone differently. In conclusion, I love the Clone Wars. This show is really what made me a Star Wars nerd. It's what made me want to explore the depths of this fictional galaxy, and introduced me to some of my all-time favorite characters. I truly think it has the best Star Wars content ever made. Thank you so much for watching this conclusion to my Clone Wars analysis series. I hope this video resonates with all of you out there who love the Clone Wars as much as I do. I'm sorry I focused so much on Obi-Wan, but I simply can't help it. He's just legitimately the main reason I like this show so much. Let me know in the comments why you love it. I'd genuinely love to hear about other people's favorite themes, arcs, and characters. Or if you disagree with me about anything. Up next, I am gonna be reviewing Star Wars Rebels, so stay tuned for that. Until then, may the Force be with you.